Good afternoon, everyone. It is a Tuesday afternoon, and welcome to Walk the Web. I'm Dr. Aaron Dishno, and here we go. Today, my plan is I am working my way out of iframes. We used them for a bit there because there was a couple of technology things that were they were interrupting the constant animation. So now we've got some new ways of trying things, and I'm going to get down that path and see if we can't eliminate iframes altogether in the long run. So to do that, we're going to be using some XML HTTP requests, and we're going to use some JSON calls. We're going to be doing, we'll do whatever's necessary, and we're going to see if we can't make it a nice, easy way that everybody can follow and be able to create their own versions of this as needed. So we'll use some of the tools that we've already built into the app, and we're going to add a couple new ones. We're even going to create a new folder so that we know which things have migrated from being iframes to this new version. I think we'll just call them handlers because that's what they do. They handle the information and interface between the functions and the, to get the information to PHP and into the database ultimately. So this is mostly used on the admin side, but it's not exclusive there. So we're going to be going through doing one piece at a time. I'm going to start with something simple so that we basically can work our way through it and see it work. And then we'll start implementing it on all the other good things. So I can't even type. Okay, so our goal today is working on eliminating iframes. So let's jump right in. And off we go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is notice that we have in our, hello to you too. In our folder, underneath core, we have forms, functions, iframes, menus, pages, scripts, and styles. And iframes is the one I kind of want to eliminate altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating a new folder, and we're going to call it handlers. Plural works for me. Okay, so then out of that, I want to imitate what the iframes pages do to a degree, which means bring in the information from a JSON call and then format the information properly so that we can submit a function that we already have written. So that's technically the part the iframe was doing. It was, you can write the information there and then you would basically submit it right into the app. So what we're going to do is we're going to track that down and see if we can't build our own version of that, basically calling a JSON call that sends the data to the database, basically. A few steps in between, but that's what we're going to cover. So we start out with, I'm going to create a new page, and it's going to be PHP, and we're going to call it buildings PHP, and that's going to be in our new folder, handlers. Buildings just happens to be a nice, easy place to start. And it's going to have some of the properties of the 3D, the connect pages, because that's all of our JSON calls. And yet it's going to implement information down in there that we need to run. So let's see what we have to do to pass the information. For beginners, let's find where we are passing information to this buildings form, and then we're going to need this buildings form. I already know we're going to need we'll get there. Okay, so looking on the page, one of the forms I'm going to start with is if I go options and settings and I say 3D building information, it populates this form. It's a real simple form. I'm going to mess with this word mini golf and maybe even the alt tag and Google ID. We're going to use those fields right there, and we just want to click this save and tell it what to do. So for beginners, let's find out where this is all going. I already have an idea. It's the name of the item, so if I look for this here, the name of the field that it passes, And we do that here. And that would be submit building form. That's what I'm looking for. And when it comes through here, it will be a 0 means delete. So that's our delete function. 1 means save. And case else, a -1 means cancel and just undo any changes that were starting to happen. So this is the piece we're going to do. First of all, when it does case 1, it updates our array of buildings that are currently loaded in your scene. In this case, happens to be just one building because that's all we're looking at. So it updates those items first, which is all fine. Then it goes and checks any building molds. If there was any backups to that, shouldn't even be the case. We're not setting any colors in here. So that isn't even needed at this time because we weren't editing building molds. We're editing the building itself. So that's no longer needed. We'll take that out. And here's where we do the request. And this particular request, I'm going to separate that part there because that's a comment. And we're going to make our own new comment that goes all the way around this from here to there. And this is the area that it's calling on the iframes page. So we know what it's going to do. We know what information is being passed. And we're going to use that same information, but we're going to send it using JSON to a page that will read it all in and then do something with it. First of all, we're going to need, I can still do something similar to this var request because that's kind of the format I'm doing is give it the name and what value you want to put in there. I'm going to make it a Z because every time we renew things, we're trying to put all the internal variables as Z something. And then I need to call a page. And we're going to use, I already have a function here under common. It's part of my scripts. And we have common, and it's even right here and there at the top. Get JSON, which does an XML HTTP request. It's doing a get. Do I need one that does a post? Because if I post the data, let me take a quick look here. I found a sample that was doing something similar to what I wanted, and it's right here. Getting JSON data from JavaScript on the browser to the server and having PHP successfully parse it. That's exactly what we're doing. And notice in their case, they used post and JSON type of data, request send, blah, blah, blah. And basically, file get contents reads it in. This is where I was a little confused about what they wrote, because you send it, so you're forcing it to go this way, and JSON send to this particular thing. Then the handler does a file get contents, but it's asking it to read a different file. So that sounds like, so we have a sender and receiver. Okay, that's fine. Where do we put the receiver then? Should it be the, no, I don't want to mix it with the functions. I think we need two separate files. Oh, that's actually what it's calling it. Yeah, I know. We're going to play around with this and we're going to figure this one out. I know there's a couple ways, and a couple people did some samples. For example, you post this, then the file that it's calling does decode the posted JSON. The post JSON, which is that data type right there. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So this is our building file that's going to read in whatever was posted. The difference is we do have to do a type of post to get the data to come back out. So the easiest way to do that without having to rewrite this stuff is we could add another property on here that tells it if it's going to be a post or a get. Kind of makes sense to do it that way. Tell it what we want to do, and if somebody doesn't put something, then it's automatically a get. So let's see. Since we're working with this function, we're going to update the URL to be ZURL and ZURL there. ZURL there. Callback is going to be this. So that's our callback. That was something else. Multiplayer tracking, that's fine. That's not going to affect us for what we're doing right now. This is the callback, and it's going to take whatever that was, and it's going to put it all back in as our request, response text. So if we add one more field here and say Z type, and if Z type equals undefined, Z type equals blah, 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 get. Now we can put that here, set that there, and since we use this page everywhere, let's test that right now and make sure that this comes up. Actually, there's going to be a lot of stuff that doesn't come up if this doesn't work right. We'll check the console so we know if there's any errors. And these things loaded, which is a good sign because a lot of that are JSON calls. And we have this, get building information, and it loaded it, so we didn't break that. That's a good sign. Don't worry about that undefined. I'm going to take care of that as we go too. Okay, so we know now that we can use getJSON, and we can add a type to it, which will be our post. Okay, I'm just going to get another formatted version of this here. It's as easy as calling the page, and yeah, okay, we can do that. In our buildings page here, well, actually, the call comes from here, and it'll be core / handlers buildings PHP, and then better look again at how this is called, because I can make the content type request send. That's what I need to do. I need to, you know what, I need a second function. I just went down this path, and it's going to be request send string JSON. I need to be able to put my string into this context. So let's make a second one. Back up here. We're gonna okay, fine. Let's go all the way back up here, and why am I not seeing it now? There it is. Okay, I'm going to leave that there because I think there's other chances that somebody may need something similar to that at different points. But in this case, unless I just add a field, because the rest of this Oh, okay, see, we're sending null here. So if I add one more field, did I use request? No, request. And if I put that here, we're doing the HTTP request with the send, and we're sending data with the request. Okay, we can do this. Then all I need is, in the same way I did this, we will do the request, and if it's undefined, then we're going to send null. That'll take care of that. And off we go. Okay, so we now extended this particular thing to be able to send that request and make it a post type of information instead of just, let's see. So we do override MIME type, that's fine. Open and send. So here, open and send request header, we have that, and then we have send. Okay, so it looks like we're doing the same thing they are. We've just now gave it something to push the other direction, which we hadn't done in this part. So override MIME type, that's all good. Okay, now we have something that will push the data there. Coming in here. We have this. We have the response, which is the second part. Then we can put post, and now we can add Z request in the end of that. I could do it this way, just so we have some form of, well, form of formatting, no, however you want to word that. Post request, and that takes care of it. So this data will be shoved that direction through this, and what I do not see here is we did not send it a building ID. I could send it this way, just so we're kind of breaking up those two things. This one did have a building ID. Yep, we need the building ID. So let's add that here. And some of our global variables, such as building ID, thing ID, and community ID, those are just without the Z or anything. Those are propagated throughout admin. So they're available to you at any point. We're encoding the name and encoding the alt tag in case they put any hash marks in it or anything else. We totally can grab what they do. These are the values that we're pulling. You know what? Let me make sure that's the right place here. And this is on forms building. That is the right field. And we only had one of those, which is good. Okay, just making sure. Okay, so that gets the data in here. I do not need this part. We can always use query strings if we choose to, but in this case, we do not need it. Sorry, there we go. And this will be the function that it runs on the completion. In this case, what do we actually need it to do? In fact, there's an easy way to tell. When it completes doing that whole thing, the function that it's going to do on success will be the same thing we have in the iframes page. We are running just submit building form. Go back to, oh, here. It is save building function was the click before. So if I take that same thing, we're going to be processing it as save building, which is this function right here. And then we're going to, after completion, do we have a save building? No, there's no function that it has to do afterwards. So that's a good start, but we can fire off a function afterwards right here where we have all these different items, we can tell it to process after the submittal just by putting it inside this function here. And it's a blank function. I don't need anything right now, so I will just do it this way, just so we have the format of the page. That's our handler. We're sending the information, and we're going to see it do what it needs to do. Okay, so we have the request. Everything looks good. Everything looks good. That should be all we need to do on this side. Now, the page that receives it, in here, the first thing is, since it's a post, we should be able to file get contents would be the JSON string, because that's the only information we're actually sending as part of it. We don't have any query strings or anything, so this should... Why does it get file contents? I don't see. That's the part that's throwing me. PHP input, is that? I guess that is it. Okay, so let's find out. We're going to go this far. And we're going to results equals file get content, PHP input, and then I'm just going to say console log, and I want it to results. Oh, sorry. I've got to do a couple more pieces there. Forgot. I'm not in PHP here, so let's echo script and script there. That should give me the results back out on the console log that just says it's been sent properly. So let's see if it does it. If we do, we're halfway there. Actually, we're 9/10 there. I missed us. Okay, let's see what page that's on. Admin editor 1446. Unexpected that. 1446 is this line. Oh, sorry, comma. That'll do it. That's why we check it as we go and do little pieces at a time, so we can fix our errors and only have to look so far back. It's the size of your rear view mirror. Okay, going in here and bringing this back up. We have mini golf, so that loaded just fine. And now when I save settings, I'm not getting anything there. Let me function response, that's not a big deal. That part has nothing. Well, this is expecting JSON back, so let's give it what it expects. That would be a wise way to do it. In that case, let's look at one of these pages here. And, oops, not iframes, sorry. Let's look at connect, building. And in here, we have some things. I might want to create its own class for handlers. That way I can wrap whatever we need for them in one place so that we have the core of it. And it's going to look a lot like our connect class. Or should I just put the connect class in place? Trying to think this one out and decide what I want to do with it. For now, I might roll its own class if I start seeing differences between the two, but if it's not, then I don't see any reason to go that far. From the folder we're in, we only have to back up one directory, back into functions, and run connect. Then we have all the connect functions, and from there, for example, we'll worry about track page view after we get some other stuff working. We're going to pass its own domain name back as the header, and then I want to return. This is just a trick to see what we can get back at itself. I may even make it a wildcard for now. Put this here and its results. I should be using well, that's what's read in, and I'm going to say response. I'm just doing this on purpose. Response equal z, because it's not going to be the same thing by the time I'm done. So for now, I'm just assigning it and telling it to spit it back out so we have some form of what went in comes back out. Here, I'm going to put anything like that just to pass a wildcard. Okay, so I should be able to call this page with, see, I'm not posting the data that it's going to try to post back, though. I need it to be a post. I know, even testing this one isn't very straightforward. But I can do this. When it comes back, I get Z response. And I can now do console log Z response. I will even let us know that it's happening. Test equals Z response. Let me see if the call gets out there, does what it's supposed to, brings back the formatted data, and then gives us the same data that we sent back into it. If all works, then we should get our same data back. That will just tell me that we're actually getting something at that point in time, because I kind of need to know if it's making that trip. If it's making that trip, we're actually in really good shape. If we're not, we got some more troubleshooting. Yeah, here we go. 500 gave it an error, which the good part about that is it should tell us what the error is right here. That isn't it, and that's not today. Okay, so the next best place to look is on our web server. Gonna check out the log and find out what's happening on this particular server when it tried to run that file. Could just be some simple error, could be something I really formatted wrong, could be a whole bunch of things. So we're gonna go in here and take a peek and see if we can't figure out what's happening. It's a lot of sessions. Okay, only 2K, good. Called undefined function S error in that. Okay. Oh, communities, PHP, that's not even the page we went to. And that's not today. Okay. It didn't end up here. We do have 2 web servers, so let's see if we ended up on the other web server. One of these things have to have some type of track of what happened. whenever there's a 500 error on the server, it does tell you. So it's just a matter of locating the file where it's happening, which is this one. Okay, now we're on December 10th. This is the server we're on. Require once the core function class. Oh, see, it's the wrong path. That isn't going to work. I can tell us already. And okay, because of that, I already know we have to create our own version because it's not in the same depth of a directory as our original. I could... Now it's not... See, connect... I'm trying to keep connect folder in the root as a separate thing on purpose so that it takes on the properties of what gets connected to other servers. And this stuff technically is all internal to our own server. So we don't necessarily want to match line per line of what we're doing here with what's happening on the other server. So I think the best class, or the best thing I can do is create another class that is just like this WTW connect, because so far those are the same type of functions that this thing's going to do. So if I come in here and those are the frames, let's get to the functions, create a new page, open up WTW connect, I'll copy all that, dump it in here, then take this file, save it as class WTW handlers, save. Oh, saved it as a text file. That doesn't do any good. Change that to .php. Okay, and now there's a bunch of stuff in here. Some of this we're not going to need. Some of this we are. The first thing is two directories back to get to config. From there goes there. Core to regular. That should actually be proper, which is really interesting. Okay, so core, we're going to go one directory back for that, one directory back for that, which means this should have only been, oh, it should be two from here. But from the other thing, that probably wasn't working right. Okay. First thing is, we're going to find on this page, and we're going to replace with WTW handlers, and that's going to be the name of this class. So replace that there. Replace, 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 replace. Doing them one at a time because I really want to see if there were any mixed case things or anything else that I needed to tweak for this particular part. And so far everything is lowercase, so I think we're in good shape. Now we have a handlers class, and we have an error trapping. We have all the other goodies that we had set up on the other part. We have the add connect header, which now can be add handler header. Handler header. Copy that. And this one technically is always going to be self, because I don't think we're ever going to pass something else and let it go in here. But for now, I'm going to leave it that way. I reserve the right to change the heck out of that later. This one's going to be, well, first of all, add handler header. If I can say it 3 times fast, right? And handler and put it there. If we need the domain name, we'll get it that way. Okay, let's see how far we get now. The paths should be correct to get to those folders. So we should get past that piece now. When they're not the same depth, you can't use relative pathing to your includes files. That's pretty much what was happening there. I could use some global variables and get to the path, but in this case, okay, so if I do this, nope, see, we still have a 500 error in there. So let's find out what it's tripping on now. And open, oops, not the session, sorry, missed it by one. And here we have handler PHP, open stream, no such file or directory, and it is so if I'm in handlers, why am I having trouble finding? Oops, sorry. So it still didn't find that path. So let's double check. Let's get some of this stuff out of our way. The handlers are all right. That is right here. That's the file we're looking for. That's the file it calls. So if I back up one directory and then go into functions, we should be right here. And for some reason, functions class handler, it didn't like that. And it didn't like in the handler file. Oh, am I missing out that it's relative to itself? Okay. Well, I know what I'm messing up. It's this right here. If I'm already in that directory, I'm already in functions when this file runs. So technically, I should be able to do that. Actually, I don't even need that. Just one tick to say same directory, different file. Now run it. Let's find out. That should be the case. For some reason, I always screw those up. But when one's included from another one, which is another one, blah, 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 blah. There's another way to do those, and I could do a full path based on the plugin, and I probably wouldn't need to even reuse these files. I mean, I could reuse them more. If this doesn't work, I think I'm going to attempt that approach. Oops. Okay, so options, get the building information, and when I click save, yeah, see, I'm still hitting it. 500, go back over to here, and how bad did I mess it up again? Oh, the other part is it could be caching, and so I'm not even getting the latest version each time I try this, which I got to be careful for too. Functions class handler failed open stream. See, it didn't like that one. Oh, because I am WTW. Oh, did I put that in the wrong folder? Let's find out. Class WTW handler PHP. That should be right where functions class WTW handlers. Did I type it wrong here? Handlers. I was one letter off. Makes a difference. So now that I include this file, I can probably put these paths back the way they were, because I had a feeling that was correct. So let's find out if I'm right or wrong. It should be that from that file reference. We'll find out right now, or do I put them all back? Okay. Here's my character. Options and plugin information. Okay, so when I click save, and of course I popped another error. I'll get there. You think I'd be better at putting these paths in place. When you call a path from one thing, okay, here we go. So handler is not there. It didn't give me my new file yet. That's all. Okay, I'm going to delete that file so we get a fresh one. Go here. We're going to make sure it gives us a clean, fresh opening of that because it's handlers. Okay, options, building information, and save settings, of course. And the new error is undefined variable in there. Okay, it's a different error. Good. WTW handlers. Undefined variable. Line 7. Okay. I love it. This page, line 7, response equals results. Oh, Z results. Ah, that's why. Fine, now it's all Z results. There we go, and we should get a Z response and see if it kicks it back to us. That would be nice. Who says it plays nice, right? It's programming. If you didn't have errors, then you couldn't be a programmer. Okay, building information and save settings. Oh, come on already. We gotta be getting closer. And add handler header. Call to member function on that, blah, 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 blah. I called it handler everywhere I used it. Handlers. It's handlers. Handlers. And just to confirm it's handlers. Yep, handlers. Okay, trying to work too fast. Caught myself off on that one. Now you can see why I copy and paste so much when I work on things. Whenever I have to type, I screw something up. So, options and settings, building information, and save settings. Okay, it brings back object. Test is object, and if I JSON encoded it, that's why. If I would have just spit it out, I think I'm going to get exactly what I put in, which, yeah, what the heck. Let's do it. Oops. We'll do it just to do it. Even though it's expecting to send JSON and receive JSON, well, let's do it anyway. Or I should have done it on the other end. I should have done it on the... yeah, I'm screwing this up. Hang on. There's a better way to do that. And if I go here, when I do submit building form, and instead of just test equals response, I should say... it should have been a string. Oh, because it already expected JSON, it's already in JSON, and if I do... Okay, so JSON stringify just to see it here. Otherwise, we already have a JSON variable, or JSON data when we come back. And we can work with that. Okay, options and settings, building information, and save settings. It still says it's an object. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that just yet because technically I'm okay. I don't need to break something just to try to show the letters here. So let's see now. Let's go a step farther. And in here, I need to parse that data. So I have the results here. And then I'm going to parse the data after we do the header. Same way we did here. See, what they do is they basically stringify. That should have given us the string. I swear that should have done it. Yeah, I think I'm in the right realm of this. When it gets the file contents, this should... Doing some getting rid of a... Yeah, you know it. You know it. So what I've done so far is I have where I normally build something up and call an iframe, I've moved it into JSON data somewhat, and then I post that to this file, and from there I'm going to tell it what to do, and I'm sending this request data through the post, and then I'm going to work with it from this side and see if we can't get rid of this altogether. And yeah, just like you said, we're working on it. I knew you'd like that. Okay, so the thing is, when I post it this way, oh, that's what it's doing. When I get it, I need to do the post JSON. Does that make sense? Because it is a post that goes through this process, means I'm decoding the post of... I didn't stringify it. Okay, I think I'm close, but I didn't do that. Well, that's already JSON. But I didn't stringify it as the data within this post. I see what they're doing. Yeah, I'm just trying to format this properly so that we get what it expects. Well, see, that's an AJAX call. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Here, we get this data. We already have the string JSON, and we have our object. We should be good. And that is the case. I did send object, so thanks. Okay, so when I do this, here, I should be doing JSON stringify on this, huh? Okay, so, okay, then if that's the case, when I receive it, and it's this data, right? It's because that's just reading in the contents from the input. And what they were doing, so it contains that. Okay, let's see what we're actually getting here. I know, and that put it back in that other format to send it back to myself. I'm just trying to confirm what I'm actually receiving is what I'm trying to get at the second. And like you can see, object, just like you predicted. Oh, wait, did I leave the piece into... Okay, so I should be able to receive that, and I should... two eyes, that's... Stringify this data. That should let me spit it out to the console log just to see that it made it round trip back with the right format and the right data and everything. And then I should be able to parse out the data. That's what I'm kind of hoping for here. Okay, so it's options, select here. And when I submit that, there we go. There's my data. Okay, so it's a building ID. Don't worry about the slashes. That's all just... Yeah, I think it overly stringified my data. No. Okay, so when I'm reading here, yeah, I would JSON parse what I get and then use the data back on this side. But what I have is, so far I'm just sending back what I sent in. So here, first I have to do, like you said, I have to, if it came in as a string, then I need to parse it. So I would do, on this one, I would need, well, JSON encode gives me it here. I need to JSON encode that so I can read the string. Does that make sense? Why am I'm getting confused here in that. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, so if well, first of all, I didn't need another JSON stringify because I already had done it. Like you said, JSON parse would have given me the object at this end. But see, that's a return trip. I wanted to make sure that this was going into my thing here where I could use it. So now that I have this, I should be able to go, I should be able to JSON encode the string that comes in here and then actually convert it to array. What do I need to do to convert it to a PHP array? I know I've done this. No worries. We're getting there. We're getting there. I thought it was just JSON decode. Okay, then what do we do? Huh, so that supposedly is going to get our HTML decode correctly, but we're not doing HTML in this piece, so I think we're going to be fine just with just JSON decode, and that should, this piece right here, so just like this. Let's give that a try first and see that we're getting something that we expect. ZData equals our results. And with true, that should get that part that way. And then just to do it, I want to see that I'm parsing it correctly is what I'm trying to check. So by doing array here, and then making that come back to us, we're basically taking a look at what the end results were as it happens. Here we have the data, and it's the results, and I would think from that we should, I think it's only one record. I don't think there's any reason, oh, why'd I go there? Since the data we're sending in looks just like this, and it's all one-dimensional array, I think we should be able to say building ID I'm getting screwed up with where I'm at. Okay, so then building ID equals building ID. Make sense to you? And then here, just to do it, I'm going to say building ID and I just want to see that come back to know that I'm parsing this correctly and grabbing the data out of there. If it's not this format, it may be the other format with the square brackets. I know I'm close. I know we're getting really close to grabbing that correct data. Let's find out. And options here. That. And a 500. Nope, it didn't like that. Which means it could be just simple as that could be the correct format. And I might as well see what the error was since it gave a 500 error. Of a non-object. Okay, so yeah, I used the wrong notation to get it. So we're going to try this format and see if we can get that to return to us. Once we get this down once, you know, it's going to be so easy to repeat. We're going to be able to pull off all these things. I know it's going to be really, really easy to get rid of the rest of these iframes. It's just a matter of hacking our way through the first time here. And I think it's going to be pretty good here. Yep, building ID. Okay, we got the process. We can do this. Yeah, nice. Okay, so then when this thing decodes and does stuff, what I want to pass with it is, okay, this one is going to be for buildings. So whenever I pull data and pass it in here, I'm going to check to see if this exists. If it exists, then I'm going to do and set the different variables. And I'm going to build up an area where we're just collecting the variables of whatever gets sent in. Then I'm going to also pass over here. When I tell it what I want to do, I'm going to pass one variable that is going to be the function we want to call. Function. And we're going to give it whatever name it is. And just by knowing that, we should actually be able to do what we need to do, because we're already going to know the definitions from the back end of it anyway. So in this case, we know from the old iframes page that we're getting rid of save building. We're going to do this save building function. So if I come in here and create around, we'll do it around this area, and we're going to do a case. Z data. Oh, I should check to see the variable. We'll have to check to see if it exists. Z function equals Z data and function. I think that's how I did it. Make sure I did it the exact same way twice in a row. And this one's going to be save building. We should pass them all lowercase, or should we do mixed case? Trying to make this as easy as possible. I think if we do all lowercase, then there's a better chance we're not going to screw it up. Or I can even, you know what, I can make it all lowercase when it reads it anyway. That way it doesn't matter if you do it either way and it still works. So coming in here, we get the function, and then case this function, and switch. Sorry. Get my brain ahead of case. And this one will be save building. And then it will be from this other page. What I ended up doing was, that's a class iframes. We don't need any of that now. We did require once with buildings on the postback. So in this case, we're going to need not only the handlers, but we're also going to need the buildings, since it's the buildings piece we're working with. That's same pathing. I know I like doing it this way. And we do that. And because we have that all in place, now I should be able to copy save building, which is this piece. Copy that. That's going to be the function. So under here, we're going to do something similar to that. And instead, we're going to be putting in all of our variables that we read in, building ID, and we'll have some more variables here in a minute. This part, we'll start by giving our variables, at least here, I don't know if I care if I use singular or double tags, either way. And then I will do it this way. If is set. I'm allowing 0 to come through and also empty or null or anything like that. So I just want to know if it's set, and then we can pass it. If we end up with something like where we, well, actually these should probably be null up here. That makes more sense. Because if they're set, they're not null. Otherwise, they are null. So that makes sense. Because even set can be blank and still be set. So we do it that way, and that will catch if it even exists. Okay, so do the same thing for any other variable that we add in here. Oops. The good news is once we build these things up and have our different variables in here that we're reading in, we only have to do it once because all we're doing is adding the new variables of whatever gets passed to it. And then we just pass this stuff through here and basically run the code. Okay. I'm encoding those, and if I'm not mistaken, I write them to the tables encoded. I do not decode them. Yeah, so we're not decoding them. We're leaving them encoded in the table, which, no problem with me doing that. That seemed to be my simplest solution for getting rid of, like, if somebody puts an apostrophe in their name or tries to do a, I don't know, SQL injection or something else, we can block it all just by doing encoded and writing that to the database. Then it never actually gets exposed to the function that writes it. Okay, so let's see what else we need here. We have a couple more variables. It will be passed, building ID, building name, and building, okay, analytics ID. Okay, and what else do we have there? I think there was one more field. Alt tag. I'm not even using some of these right now, so when it came up undefined on the other page, it was because I really didn't have any value I needed to worry about for it. That one can be blank. That one's blank by default. Building name will never be blank, so we'll leave it blank anyway. I'm just thinking of, you know what, those are actually going to all be default to blank instead of that. Null's fine on that. Okay, so that is the default values. And then if we have these, we'll just add a few more of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we should have pass building ID, building name, building analytics ID, which if I'm not mistaken, I think that's just analytics ID in the database. I'll have to double check that because I want to make it match the name. And then alt tag. Let's see. In the database, we went with Analytics ID. Okay, so I don't need to pass. I was only doing it buildings analytics ID on some of the return values and things I was using is because I was pulling community, building, and thing and pulling them back in the same statement at the same time. But since I'm writing this data to a particular table, I'm not actually juggling more than one item at a time. So Analytics ID seems to work just fine for that. And we can do the same thing here. Oh, it is Analytics ID. It's alt tag. Okay, so we're already a step ahead of that there. The other one was it did send a blank for past building ID, but because we already know that it's going to be a blank by default right here, we don't have to worry about that for this particular call. And next, let's pass these values here. And this particular one doesn't even have a return function that it's doing, so I don't even need to worry about, by the way, notice, oh, the building name is, okay, so we did, I did, oh, in the function. We're passing it to the function. The function is where we're decoding the name from base 64. So by passing the data through base 64, we don't have to worry about it, but it's handling it at the end, going right into the database. So we do not have to worry about that. The function itself that I'm using right here is going to do that particular piece of this. And finally, alt tag. Okay, and for the first of many, oops, there we go, that's all in there, and that should call the function, and we do not have a return particular thing we need. For now, I just sent back the building IG just to know that something happened, but what we'll do is we're going to check in the database after this change and see if it did it. If it did, excuse me, then that whole piece right there, we can repeat that about 30, 40 times and eliminate all those iframes. Yay! We're getting it, we're getting it. So options, building information, and okay, I'm going to say show advanced, and alt tab is going to say, I just want to put the word test there just to have something different. Also, mini golf, I'm going to add the word game. Or I can even say 3D game. Come on, we're talking 3D here. Okay, save settings. Okay, we had an error. Just was too much to think I was going to get that right on the first try. For every line of code I add, it's more likely it's going to have an error, right? Okay, I missed a bracket. Yep. On line 19 in my building handler page. Building handler page, line 19. Oh, yep, that's what it is. I missed one and then I copied it and did it every single time. You can say I'm consistently at messing up, right? Okay, save that. Let's see how I did now. And just to confirm, this right here, I'm going to do a refresh. That's our name right there that we're going to change just by testing it. That's what should change. So if I come in here, do this, change it to Mini Golf 3D Game. Up. Type it right a couple times in a row. And also here, I'm going to say test. Save settings. Oh, we still didn't post something, right? Good point. Good point. Good point. You're right, because it's calling the page when it actually submits. You're right. You're right. Okay, let's see what I messed up on this one. Check update access on null. It didn't find the class. So it did not find this class right here, which means it didn't load this page properly. Why would that be the case? It should have been able to run this, and it was saying can't find this on null, which is saying this piece is null. But we called it here, and we are running that page. Let me guess, are my class functions? Let's look at buildings. No, I don't have any. Are there includes on this page that I'm ignoring? It could be a path to a, well, see, save buildings should be this function right here, but it's not even finding that far. It's not getting there. Oops, do that again. It should have created the globals. It should have pulled that just by loading this page. There's no other include that it needed to do, so that shouldn't be a problem. Right here, when I say require once, functions, class, buildings. So if the handlers ran, then this should have also run, unless neither one of them came through. And since we're running, that's the right path though. And it didn't say that it couldn't be included. That's kind of tricky. Call to member function, check update access. Sorry, I read that wrong. So on 149, check update access, there's something else there wrong. Okay, we're close. Check update access on this page. 149, right here. That is on iframes page, which we are getting rid of. That's why we're not loading iframes. Global iframes. All that stuff needs to go. So I should move whatever I need into the handlers and change the name of each one of these functions to handlers wherever I need them. That would make sense. And this whole thing becomes part of the handler function, not part of the iframes. See, because we loaded iframes here, but that was because we were already loading iframes on the back piece. Okay, so then, and this page isn't going to be, we're not using iframes by the time I'm done with this anyway, so what happens is this page as the handlers already covers the database and the user and the config file to get to the database and all that stuff. And since we're adding this page, we're already bringing in those handlers and the buildings from here. All we need to do is in this handlers file include the pieces we're going to use. So in this case, okay, I'm going to start with, see this function right here that we're trying to do. We're going to do it with this function first, and then we'll go ahead and do the rest of them. But I want to double check. Well, first of all, anywhere there's iframes, check update access. That's going to be one of the functions. Since I copied and created the other piece using the handler function first, I want to see if our handlers, yes, our handler has that file. That's what we'll do. We will first start by changing iframes to handlers on this page. find, replace. Any reference to that should be this. We'll replace all on this page. And now it should tell us if there's any functions that aren't part of that. There may be a couple that iframes used that my connect page that I started with as a base did not use. I still didn't have it. I'm sorry, that was habit. Okay, you're right. I do not need to keep navigating the menu. I could just leave this open and just click save again and it should work. So 3D game. I know, old habits are hard to break. Go test and save settings. We're still posting an error, but it still might be a specific one that's not there now. So let's find out here. Okay. Undefined variable building ID in the handlers page, line 52. Okay. Did I type it wrong? It should have been Z building ID, or oops, in this page, line 52, which of course is here. I changed it to Z building ID. So it kicked it out when it was doing it back the other direction, which means if I refresh this, yes, it did update. Okay, we're almost there. The only thing I messed up on was I had just spitting this piece back just so that it gave it a response back. We'll build the response based on whatever it needs here. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blank array right before the switch variable, and then based on whatever we're trying to tell it to do here, we can actually spit back any particular data. Whoops, what did I hit? We can spit back whatever we want in an array right back to ourselves there. So that should process whatever we bring in and automatically kick it back out. About as simple and straightforward as we could possibly do on that file. Which means now I've set it up where we can just bring in whatever additional variables we need. We can tell it what function we need it to run, have it run it, and define any response back, which can also be, we could also tell it if we need to run any functions on the return. No, actually, we don't even have to do that, because when we call this, we already have the return functions right here. So all we have to do is call this, it automatically writes the data, and this is what I'm doing with whatever was in that response. So send back the data we need and then handle it right in our original call. Yes, I like this. I like it. It's so much smoother. No more problem with iframes, no more bouncing. There was occasional times where it would run the iframe twice, even though we told it to only run once. The dynamic iframe idea was never stable. It was kind of working, but not always, which made it really unreliable. So definitely this is the way to go, and this is actually working really well. So now, if I just go back here and we take those words back off, and I think test, we can leave that there. Save settings, no new error, it did it. And if we look in the database, we're back to the original name. Yay! Woo! The crowd goes wild. First iframe eliminated. Woot, woot, woot. No. Okay, so now we have a process that we can take advantage of. Yeah, I get your point. And I started with hard-coded iframes, so each page had to be included on the page. The problem was, if I needed to call it multiple times fast, I was getting some weird results. Then I timed it out and did a queue to make it work. And then I eliminated which ones were preloading so that I didn't have to load something that I wasn't using yet. And I went to dynamic iframes. I mean, it's evolved many different stages. And the problem was it kept on doing it multiple times. So yeah, I can see why you ditched it. And definitely I'm going to be happy to get rid of them here. Because we can process what was in a form and have it spit it out and still run the code on the back end, even returning values as needed. Because we can do that whole process, definitely iframes are eliminated from every form feed we did. You also gave me some sample code, and I know we can read in files that we want to post to something, and we can do those asynchronous the same way we're doing it here. So we have quite a bit of pieces in place to be able to do those steps. And we'll eliminate them one at a time. I'm going to start by keep on going through these functions, grabbing each one of these pieces, see wherever they're used, change out the code, and eliminate it. So in this particular case, I told it to just show it on the screen, but technically there's nothing. This one didn't have anything we needed to do with a response. So technically, even though it gave me a response, I don't have to call anything back, so it can be an empty array. We're not even returning a value. So that one's fine exactly as is. There was nothing else to do after it saved it. It's basically, we already knew what to do with it on the front end and just dump that back there, so it's done. Okay, so that works. Let me change this also to, this is going to be our own domain name as the allowed headers, so that it's only allowing it to run from internal on our own site. We won't accept an outside post into this page. So for security reasons, that's hard coded in there to always read our own current domain name and then use it on the page. Let me make sure that it still works now that I've changed that out. Options, building information. We'll just say 3D mini golf. Test tag, I'm going to blank that out and save settings. And test is blank. It gave us our variable back. I didn't refresh that page. See that? Okay. That's where, yeah, I modified this end to not tell us what it gave back. No problem, but it did do the process. And if we look in the database, we now have 3D mini golf. Boom. Nice, fast, very, very fast, very efficient. It's not loading a whole page when all it needed was to send a little bit of data there. So yeah, definitely. There we go. Yeah. Credit where credit is due. Okay. So now I need to take this concept and basically run with it and do this to replace anywhere I did anything nasty like this. Notice it's even less lines of code. We just killed off all of this for just a couple lines of code, and it runs faster, cleaner, much nicer. Love it. Love it. Can completely do that. It's very repeatable. All we're doing is setting this, using our same getJSON call because we already had a call to do that. But instead, now we're passing a post of this data right here that we're passing into it. It's going to be a single layer string. I mean, a single layer array. Single dynamic. No, dynamic would be multiple. Okay. Basically one level array telling it what values we're passing in, and then we're going to tell it to do this. As we need other things, we'll keep on adding them in there, but basically the idea is to tell it using the function which one it needs to run. And then our handlers page, that's all fine. Where am I going? It would be this particular handler for buildings, the one that's going to completely cut that out. All I'm doing is reading in the results using the data, results from the post, setting up the variables and parsing it out so that we know which pieces came in, and then using the function name, tell it which piece to run, and return any results if we needed them. That sounds pretty good. Sounds really good if you ask me. Okay, that's about as simple as I could have made that. The only other thing would be to take this piece here and string, I think it's string lower. I think that's the function name. And make sure that they're always passing that as a lowercase function, just so that, well, it's null here. I don't want to do a lowercase of null. I'll put that in the wrong place. Let's back that off. Let's do it here because this is where we already know that we have a value coming in. And so now Z function would be always in lowercase, and you don't have to worry about if it was lower or uppercase or mixed case or anything else coming in. Okay, so that's one. Let's keep on going here. And if I do this, I just want to find in files and see if there's any other place that use this other than on this page. Save copy, which would be that one right there. I'm going to eliminate that, and we're going to look for save new. Go buildings. Before I move here, I'm going to take a copy of this just so that I have the exact same format every time. And copy is not being used. Wow. That's another one I'm not even using right now. So save new building was not being called anywhere from our JavaScript. That's impressive. It's one I eliminated, I guess, along the way. Yes. Okay, no problem. Find this one. Find in files. And that's where we're calling it. So start right here. Put that in place. And since it calls the same function, we already know that's the function that it calls. We have copy building ID that we're passing in. And when it gets there, though, that's not what we called it. I'm sorry, I use we a lot, and I'm going to apologize in advance if I ever say that you made an error, because it's clearly me who makes the errors. Seems like the person who makes the error is always the one in front of the keyboard, right? Okay, so if I passed in a value there, what was I... Oh, did I rename it already here? Copy building ID was the pass building ID. Okay, so that would be this value goes... Doesn't get simpler than that, does it? So that gets the value in. That's the page we're going to. That's the request. That's that. We have get building name is this. And we already have that exact thing right there. And alt tag is, we're signing that blank. That's what it is by default, so I don't even need to set it. Same thing for analytics ID is blank. It's nice when you don't even, if you just need a blank, you just don't pass it. And building ID needs to go through as blank because I'm creating a new one, means it's going to assign a new value when it does it. So that one goes through as blank, and then we run the request of save building. That'll create our new one. And save building copy, on the other hand, when we exit out of this, it runs this process right here. So here, oops. Here, when we call it in this section, we're going to want to run this, but I need to know what the building ID is after the fact. So we have this, and did I need a parse? should be JSON parse. So that should be true, and then that would mean ID. Oh, I wouldn't want. Let's see. Is it local? Yeah. Actually, what am I doing in that function? Well, z building ID equals z response dot building ID. And then, actually, I don't even have to do that. Since I'm not using anything more than one line, let's just put it here. Makes sense. One less line of code. Don't assign a variable when you're not doing anything with it other than passing it. And that should take care of what happens on the completion of this step. That is all completed. Yay, another one done. And let me think here. Okay, all that's done, and this is what's left. Go back here. That's no longer needed because we did take that piece out. And since it does the same save function, I need to pass in here that we are doing, oh yeah, we are doing the same save building, same function, and that should take care of that piece. I have old copies of this code, so if I need to go back and look at something that I erased, then I'll do it. But otherwise, I'm eliminating these functions with these pieces that are getting pressed from JavaScript. So it's pretty easy for me to find which pieces I need from here and eliminate them. Okay. That one should be done. I'm not going to bother testing that one just yet. I have my reasons. It should be fine, but I'm going to go ahead and keep moving on and get back to that afterwards. So the next one I'm going to eliminate is, let's do delete building. Find in files. And we have one place right here where we're calling the delete. Oh, I shouldn't have left where it was before, because I could have copied the function again. Oh, actually, we're saving it right here. I got it. This is the function. Copy that, and it's going to be right there. And we'll have to say delete building. It's the name of that piece. Okay, gives us case, delete building. Getting rid of them quick now, we're on a roll. So then delete building, we pull it from the iframes here. This is the function it ran. The only thing it had to pass into it was this variable for the building ID. All the security and everything else is checked on the back end, so that piece is all fine. And that takes care of delete buildings on this side of things. It didn't appear to have anything returning because there's no function in this area. Definitely. Oh, delete building does have one, and we redirect the parent to this. So if I take that out of there, put it in here, when it completes, it will redirect the parent and finish that. Because when you just delete the building, you're using the building to delete the building, And so basically it sends you back to unload it, basically, to make sure that nothing's currently loaded in your screen that you're using. Okay, so delete building is in place. I'll get to testing that shortly, but all we need to pass with that one is the building ID and delete building. This building ID should be, yep, that's what we're passing here. That's what we were doing there, and we were telling it to use delete building. Oh, and we did tell it to delete a cookie. I'll let it do that piece too. That was for reloading, by the way. I was using cookies so that it'd remember what building you were working on, and it would bring it back up. I don't even know if I'm really considering doing that still or not, but in this case, there we go. Delete building is in place. Handler buildings and post. The return doesn't have anything, which we don't need. That's all we need to pass. Doesn't get any easier than that. I tell you, this is definitely working out well, because it took what I did before and sliding it over directly really makes a difference. Clear building was a cool function also. This particular function was if you built up a building and you wanted to keep the name of it and keep everything else in place, but you want to just like you started building something and you decide, oh, I didn't like that, wreck it down to ground zero. You could actually clear a building without deleting the foundation. But I don't even know if I use that anymore. Yeah, we took it out of the code. Yeah, there was no reason. I mean, when you delete a building and then you create a new one, it creates the foundation. Early stages, I actually had some that you could do some work on it and clear it to a certain degree. We'll have to rebuild that from scratch when we're ready to use it again, but right now, that's not even in the code anymore, so there's no reason to transfer it over. I'm kind of picking and choosing this in a certain order. Nothing particular, but say temp building. Okay, save starting position. That's going to have a couple new variables, and we'll get those in place in this app. Okay, there's a starting position for both communities, buildings, and things. So I need to make sure I'm using the one, oh, that's things. Oh, here I go again. Before I move on from the last one, if I was smart about this, I would make a copy of the pattern of what I did so that I don't have to keep on typing, or that I don't screw it up trying to make it again. Okay, so we have, this one is, this should be buildings. Yep, buildings, there it is. And goes in here. And then we pass the variables, which are, why would that be a Z? Oh, because it could be a blank. And if it's not blank, then it does it. Okay, I see what I did. Good enough reason that I'll keep it there. And also, we do not need those two in place. And delete building will be, we're going to call it save start position. And that will be there we go. That's where we're going to put it. Oops, one line. Continuing on, we're passing the building ID, and then we have to pass the start position. Oh, what'd I do? Oh, I did this request thing. I'll take that out afterwards, but that's where I'm going to get my variables. We are going to use position and rotation values. Copy that. And put them right here. And I'm missing one comma at the end of that row. Okay, so now we have position XYZ and rotation XYZ. We're getting those values, and there's nothing else part of that. This had those values. Scaling. Okay, scaling was also passed, even though they're all 1, 1, and 1. Oh, start position's always the same, always scaled to whatever it is on the scene. So there's no reason to adjust them, but we will want to know scaling X. And we just make that a 1. And we do X, Y, and Z. Okay, so from that gives us all those values, and then we have a start rotation. Okay, we're good on that function. So when we run it, this is the function we do. Copy that. Actually, I can even cut it. There's no reason to keep it on that page. It's going to happen right there. Okay, starting with building ID. We already have that value. And we're going to do our position XYZ, and there's no reason to do the word start position because it's only going to be a particular position, I think. Oh, actually there are 2 different positions. Because I can scale, let me see. We have position XYZ rotation. No, there's only 1 in the table. Oh, the connecting grid does the other stuff. So we're not adjusting a connecting grid. We're adjusting the position that the person starts when they enter this particular building. Okay, so that means all we need is position X. And we're going to default to 0. And we'll have a Y and a Z. Okay, and scaling is going to default to 1, which pretty much is what it's going to be anyway. And we have an XYZ of that. And then we have rotation. 0. And that has an XYZ also. X, Y, and oops, Z. Okay, from there, I need a bunch of these. We'll do position X. Y and a Z. I know, repetitive, but like I said, every single one of these that I get rid of, good news, everybody, it's going to run better. Okay, so position, then we have scaling. X, Y, Z. I'll throw another one in there. X. And Z. And finally, rotation X. Here we go. Rotation X. Y and Z. Okay, now I can pull these values out here to be Z position X, Z position Y, Z position Z, Z scaling X. I know, this is getting redundant. We're almost there, we're almost there. We'll move on to the next piece. Z position Y. Z, whoops, scaling. I'm saying position while reading the word scaling. That's pretty good. And then we have Z rotation. And Z rotation Y. And finally Z rotation Z. Ugh, come on. Okay. Okay, so that should do that. And do we need anything back from this function? Let's double check. When I run this, no, we didn't have anything coming back from this one. It would have been right here, and it would have been, okay, I already deleted start position. There's no callback function, so we don't have to worry about that. And we've eliminated another one here. And just to do it, let's go ahead and let's test that one. It's an easy way to test that. Right now, I'm facing this way over here and everything else. Okay, if I change that to, for example, let's make it obvious. I'm going to come over here, and start facing this direction. By the way, you see that cool shadow work I did? That was the other day. The shadows are all working really good now. Okay, so I'm going to start here just for the heck of it. Options, set starting position, and use current position. Oh, we got a 500. Where to miss? Kill that off. And string to lower. I did that one wrong. I had a feeling I did that wrong. Okay, let's find out real quick. I think it's just lower. Lowercase. What is it? It is string to lower, no hyphen. Okay, that's what I'm missing. Good old PHP. When you jump back and forth between languages often enough, it's almost destined that you're going to end up doing something like that. It's one notation over the other and what they're going to do. So here, where I did that string to lower was totally wrong. It's string to lower, not string hyphen lower. Hence the highlighting now. Okay. Go back here and use current position. Save the position. Everything looks good. It didn't kick a new error. And now, which should be, see how it has negative 21s, oh, actually, negative 24s, yeah, almost off 0, and then negative 21. And the new values, yes, they are new values in there. And finally, if I even refresh this page, there's my starting position for this building. So yay! Had confidence in that one. Once we figure out the process and get it written once, we can repeat it. Okay. And moving on forward now. That eliminated that one. We're about ready to get rid of this whole page here soon. Okay, save gravities. The next one, oh, I did this last time. Oh, wait, I didn't finish kicking out. Let's get rid of all of that since it's not doing the iframe anymore. Yay. I know we've got another one right here for a thing. We'll get to it. But I'm going to copy this just so I have it in the queue. And from this page, we're going to do save gravity next. The good part is we're not affecting with using the functions that were shared and used in our different objects. So all of our classes for all of our functions are as is, which makes it really nice to do it this way. Okay, so we have gravity settings, and it looks like I have 3 places. Things, buildings, here's the buildings one right here. I don't know why I have a gravity setting happening from here. Well, we'll leave it in there. But technically, the gravity, the way I've set it up recently, is that the community loads the gravity and nothing else is really setting it. So before, I was doing some things where a building could have a change in gravity. But what I might need to do is allow you to define changing gravity on your own anyway. Yeah. Like if I went inside, I had a building, let's say it was a 0 gravity chamber. So when you walk inside of it, all of a sudden gravity disappears and you float and you do whatever. Then what I would do is in code, as soon as you're in that particular object, then I turn off gravity and then I do it. So it's all done through code. I wouldn't do it from the interface. So for now, I'm going to leave this in place only because I'm eliminating iframes at this time. But I have a feeling that I'm not going to be calling this piece of code from anywhere in the long run. We do not need any of that. And all we need is gravity setting, and it will be request gravity, which is WTW init gravity. So see, I change it once, and then I'm writing it if you're working on a building thing or a community. Yeah, see, there's enough reason that this isn't. And like I said, I think I'm going to be eliminating this eventually. But for now, since there's a setting in the table and there's a function that writes it, I don't see any reason why we don't just, we'll save it and move on. Which is going to take us all the way to there. And from here, we have save gravity, and is there a callback? No. So the only thing I care is this piece here. Copy that. Actually, I'll cut it. We don't need it here anymore. Case save gravity. And there's our function. We are passing in the building ID. And we're going to pass in the gravity. So that means backtracking up here. I could also do some validation to make sure that it's a variable. I mean, it's a number or whatever else. But I can add that stuff in later. For now, I just like seeing this work and getting rid of iframes. Gravity equals, and I'm going to put this at 9.8. If they don't put in a value, I'm going to make it pretty much what we are for our gravity on Earth. Okay, so we're earthbound unless somebody says different. That takes care of that one. We have save gravity. Save gravity is our function. We pass in 2 values. Is this the correct value? No, it is not. I knew it. That's going to be the correct value because that's what we use here. Okay. And boom, another one done. Yay, the crowd goes wild. Okay, coming up on it, save gravity's gone. And now our share building template. This one has a huge function that it does, but calling it isn't that hard to do. So the good news is we can totally pick up this one. And I did it once again. Why do I do that every time? Go back here. Go to there. And I want to copy the format before I move on. Okay, so move back to there. And that's the format that we're going to do. Okay, share building form. This one, we're passing some new variables and building tags and template. So the name of this is going to be share building template. Let's get that piece in place before we move on. Okay. It's not that hard. I just want to see if there's any variables that I actually can repeat and take advantage of. So case that and share building template. Let's take the function over there. First one we know we have is building ID. There's a temp name, but since we're not using the name anyway, and we're just passing it to here and it's kicking back whatever we do, I don't see a reason to create a whole bunch of different variables just because I called it a different name behind the code or where it's going. If we pass it to the right function, we're still getting the correct name. Okay, this one also does not have a kickback. Why is there save temp building? Oh, that's the next one up. Okay, good. Okay, so with that in mind, I should be able to use building name for this. Actually, there's no gravity. Let's get rid of that one anyway. Okay, we have building name. And we're going to pass this share name, which is this field. So as long as we grab the right field, we are grabbing the right name anyway. So I don't see a reason to create another field on the back end. As long as we know which one we're using and can set it here so that it's Z building name. Okay, and then description. That one we're going to add a description and tags. That's what we need. And I want to put it, since we have a building name here, we'll put description. I'm trying to be as clean, straightforward with these namings too. Description. And tags, I want to tell you right now, tags aren't, we'll be using those a lot more real soon, but right now they're just, they're there because we know we need them. They're not there because we have got everything figured out or have everything in place yet. But in this case, we're going to do description and Z tags. Okay, and put those up here. Oops, I did double C. Copy and paste and then still spell wrong. Okay, and $Z tags equal blank. Okay, so that will pass those values in. Let's get them right on this end, right here. We need, copy that, and it will be description and tags. It's going to be that name and that name. Okay, so that grabs the right values, puts them into these names, pulls them in the back, puts them into the function. We're good to go. No reason for anything else there. There's no callback function. We do not have to worry about that. And we've eliminated another one. Okay. Let's kill off that from there. And we have 2 left to finish out this full iframes functionality page. And we can eliminate the whole page from our site. And as you can see, there's more to go, but this was a good one to start on. And almost there, almost there. So, find in files, find all. And before I click anything, ooh, I have not put this one in place yet. I have the functionality to do this. Save template building. I don't want to get rid of this function call per se, but I do not have a reason to put it anywhere else in code just yet. So I'm going to add it here. Some of these were used actually from like the WordPress. When you create a particular building, it could send into the code and actually do things. So I'm probably going to put some of this stuff into Connect, that kind of functionality, and make it where it can run it from another site. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'll be moving some of that stuff and making it work from there. Right now, I just want to know that when we want to run it, here's how we do it, and that will take care of that piece, but there's a callback on this too. Okay. Yep. Okay, so we have save template building, and it does this piece when we call it back. Just curious what it actually does. That's the only place we call it, and that's what it calls. Before I move on, I'm going to take a copy of this in my queue. Sets a cookie and opens the building. I'm not going to worry about that right now. If that's the only thing that does, I'm not too worried about that function. And like I said, when I find things that I don't need, I get rid of them. We're cleaning code as we go. So that particular function is gone. Save template building is no longer there. We killed the bottom part of that. And that was the one, save template temp building. Save temp building. That one's gone now. And now we have an important one. I kind of saved this one for last only because of where it's being called from. But we have it from our downloads page. This page, yeah, I think we're okay. This is where it gets a little... This one's going to have a lot of functions that have to change out. In particular, I'm going to building new response buildings 0. Building is the function that gives me all that. I want to make sure I get this in just the right place because I also got to check my variables because notice there's a response. I didn't put Z response, so I think, well, I want to make sure I'm not, because I have request and response here. The response coming out is Z response, and this was response. So the fact that I didn't duplicate that word is going to be a good thing in this place. This gets called. It does a certain thing. But it's more than one line, that's why. And each one of these lines need to do a particular function. That's why we have this code the way we do. Okay, first things first, we are passing in building ID is get random string. So I'm going to keep that here and make this go there. And now we passed in the building ID. Copy web ID. This is going to be our past building ID. Because it tells us which one to grab and do. Wait a minute. Oh, okay, we're fine. We're fine. I'm grabbing this from another site, which is my other site, and then I'm importing it into your site when you run this function. So I just want to make sure I get all these pieces right that we're going to do. First of all, the function name is import building. And there's some pieces I've wrapped around this stuff, so I want to make sure that I don't mess that up. We'll be putting some things there. On this piece, case import building. And when it does that, it's going to do this. It's only happening from one place, so I don't have to worry about this code coming in from somewhere else. We have some of everything here. Notice we have the alt tag. We have gravity. Which are our variables we already do. Okay, and yeah. Rotation Z, we're just getting some of these variables lined up and passing them on in there. Thanks again, Glenn2 and GLN2, if I say it right. Okay, and we're getting these in place, and what it's going to be is there's going to be a whole lot more of this, but this particular one is going to finish out this file, and then I got to go do some other coding. But so we're almost done for the day here. As you can see, it's a lot of the same. But yeah, I love the way this worked out. It's so fast too. I like it. Another great improvement. And it's a Z scaling. Okay, Z position. Z position Y. Z position X. What's happening is this stuff is actually bringing it in from another piece. Okay, so we need, okay, analytics ID is actually going to be blank because we're bringing it in from another source. It's always going to be blank. So, building name. And we're getting there. Pass building ID. And then the building ID that we copied. So we have them all. Z building ID. Okay, that's all of those pieces. And now we just need to pass each one of those into this function. Where do we go? It's going to be there. I thought I already had this here. There it is. Okay, pass building ID. Building name. I'll get to bringing them in here in a second. Analytics. Mold group. Mold group is building, which gets used when it searches select. It's going to be on the bring back. It's going to be on the pass back. So I don't need to pass that in there anymore. Web ID is the building ID. So we have that already. We have building ID and we have web ID. Okay, that's for the pass back. Copy web ID is pass building ID. Okay, so next is going to be the position, scaling, and rotation, gravity, and then alt tag. Okay. Position X. Oh, just because I have it. I've been doing, sometimes I do a space, sometimes I don't. I'm trying to be consistent. Whatever I pick, I try to do it all the time. So building Y, Z. And then we have scaling. I'm guessing that's just scaling. X, Y, Z. Okay, and then we have finally rotation, and I'm sure that's just rotation. I can double check, of course. Yep. At least I'm consistent about doing that, right? Okay, X, Y, and Z. And then we have two more. We have gravity and alt tag. Alt tag. And those values are going to be this. I'm reading them from another item. That's why they have such long, some of these strings are long and where they're actually coming from. I'm pulling them from an array that I already have in the scene that well, actually it's the array that we brought back from this call from our other server. So we bring it back, then we fill these in here and pass them on to the whole thing. Value for analytics obviously is blank. Building name, it inherits the building name of whatever you chose. So that's going to be there, and this one's going to be blank. And that should, make sure I got a comma on the end of every line. That should be that. Now, when this gets called, there is a callback function on this one, I believe. So get that to there. And the callback function, well, not there. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's why, because it wasn't on that page. Okay, now I get, man, my brain's wrapping around that. Here we have the callback function from this piece right here is this one. X. So, actually, sorry, it is right here. The callback function is that, and it's not a parent page anymore. Yay, we got rid of that altogether. And for mold group, we have building. Copy that value. And web ID is the building ID that we chose, which is the new building ID, by the way. And then copy web ID was this one. So we put that back into here, and that takes care of the callback function after the fact. So very clean, very fast. I like this. I like it. I like it. I like it. So then we get a new building ID. It gets put there, and it gets used there to tell us that's the new building ID, then do all the parts that go along with this building ID. Just drag all that down there, and we are rid of that much information. And when it finishes this piece, it automatically does this piece. Oh, one more thing I need to double check, sorry. I erased that line right there, which would be right after it calls, right before it calls that. It's ready to call it. I'm going to give it a progress bar of 50%, and then I'm going to bounce it in there afterwards. Okay, that makes sense. I just want to give it some type of progress bar that it's doing something and moving along. I kind of manually fed those, but they tend to work really well because people can see that, hey, progress is happening. We've made this call, in other words, then the progress bar was set. Then it formats this and goes to requested. It jumps to 50%. Then it does this piece, and then it jumps to 100%. So there's not a lot, and those go very quickly anyway, but it is a little bit of movement during the process, and that takes care of this piece. And save new building. I'm going to double check again on that one to make sure, but there's no function I'm doing up here, so I don't think it's anything. Import building is now gone. We are done. This page should no longer be in use, and I will find that out in a minute. Save new building. I think I checked it on the top. There was nothing doing this, and then since it wasn't in the code, it's not needed, and it isn't. So we weren't running this function anywhere from within the code anymore, which means it was called from an outside source, and I'm not worried about that anymore. And once and for all, this whole piece with this whole blah, 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 blah in here is now done. We do not need this page. So let's double check that with file name to clipboard. I know it's billings. Find in files. It would be iframes buildings PHP find all, and it is being called in one place. Where are we calling this? Oh no, that's this page. Okay, so we're not calling this page from anywhere anymore. So I am going to do move to recycle bin. Boom, we got rid of a whole iframes page, no longer in existence, and all the functions that it did, they're now transferred over and used directly from the code. Every one of these are now out of place, and we have a handler function. This page right here took the place of that whole iframe page. Basically, we pass in a JSON data. It reads the JSON data that needs to be in here, whatever happens to exist. Then one of the JSON data pieces is the function that you're going to run. It picks the function, puts in the data, and runs that particular function. And in this case, out of the WTW WalkTheWeb buildings class. So we have the class, we have the handlers. That's everything. That's the complete thing. And then if it has a response, it sets the headers and comes back with the response, which, note, that would only be a problem if we needed to pass data back. Which I don't think, because most of these things, what we actually did was, just like this last one, instead of passing data back, we already knew what we had in here, and we just set it to run on completion. So when it passes the data to there, it already knows these values, sets them right in here, and runs that part on completion. So we've already, on success, so we already have those values. We didn't have to pass as many values as some of the stuff I've done in the past. Much better, much cleaner. If it had any values that came from the submitting of this data, for example, if well, if it had any values, let's say I save a new building and I need to know the ID, for example, then I can pass back right here, create an array, that is this response array, tell it what it's doing, and or even if there's some error corrections or anything else, I can pass back in the response array, have it come to here, and then handle based on what it returns. Like here, whenever it returns something in this response, it could say, here's the error that it encountered or whatever. So I can process errors, I can pass values into functions. Anything that needed to come out of the PHP would be in that. So that's the whole piece. That's the entire end of that. Brings it all back together. And we've eliminated a file out of iframes. Yay! And then we got a few more to go. But been going strong for about 2.5 hours, and so I'm ready for some lunch. Actually, I haven't even had breakfast yet, and it's already 2:00 p.m. today. That's what happens when you get busy, right? Okay, well, I want to thank you all for joining me today, and it's been great. It's been a pleasure, and I will be back again tomorrow. So have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and thanks for following always. Okay, we'll see you again soon.